Hey, welcome to FliteTest. I'm Josh, and this is Peter.
Hey guys.
And today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be showing you how to hook up a control system, but not just any control system.
Not any one of them. It's the Vector OSD control system, flight controller and OSD actually.
Now, what makes this so unique?
It's a flight controller, so that means it's like a 3-axis gyro and accelerometer, so it can control the flight of your aircraft as far as stability-wise goes for like a multi-rotor or even your airplanes.
Cool. And the on-screen display actually gives you all the relative information. This is actually manufactured by Eagletree. So they've been widely known for their systems with OSD.
They're very high-tech, and they never really put out an unfinished product.
One nice thing about this that DJI does not have is the ability to fly tricopters. This has it also, of course, with airplanes and a lot of other different vehicles.
Yeah, it's even more versatile than NASA, I would say.
So what are we going to show them today?
We're going to set up an Electro Hub, just an Electro Hub quadcopter, just kind of like a quick start, get used to it guide.
It'll help you get over those initial hurdles of hooking it up, how to hook it up, where to plug things where the grounds are, and also downloading some software too. For people that have never hooked up a system like this, that maybe just have like a multi-wii board, what are these components here?
Well, first thing you're going to notice is the central thing. This is the Vector unit itself. It's the flight controller basically with everything in it.
And that also has the on-screen display too, right?
It's like the central hub for where everything conjugates. And the nice thing is, the way they assembled this, there's no wires coming out of here. So you can actually move this from plane to plane just by buying an additional set of wiring harnesses and other components.
But one thing this is not, it's not a receiver.
Yep.
So whether you're flying Futaba, whether you're flying Spectrum, you're going to need a receiver.
Yep.
So a lot of people think that this is a receiver because
it's definitely not. And then we have the current sensor slash power supply unit. And then we have the GPS slash magnetometer, which is self-explanatory. It's, GPS, satellites, and your magnetometer, which is basically your compass.
Okay, so what's our first step?
First, let's go ahead and set up the Vector outside the aircraft.
Okay,
I think
you can do that?
Yeah, you can do it outside of that. We're just gonna go and plug everything up, make sure our wires are good.
Okay.
This is just to reduce clutter so you understand where everything's going, and then we're gonna move to the aircraft, which is a quadcopter.
Okay.
The nice thing is quadcopter is fairly open, so it's easy to attach everything too. So once we got the Vector out of the box, the first thing we're going to do is we're gonna update the firmware. They tell you to do this in the manual too, just to make sure you got the latest feature in case there's any bugs with the last section of software.
It's a good practice to do with any control board that you have, is always check and see if there's the most up-to-date firmware, and also see what people say about it. Some people don't go there. Some people it's great. Oftentimes, if you have a problem, you call somebody about it, they're going to say, do you have the most recent firmware? So make sure you have it.
Yep, because this takes care of all that. And the nice thing is about their manual, they're constantly working on updates and making it easier to understand. So that's a really plus about Vector and the way they're taking care of their customers.
Nice. And we're going to have links down below for you guys. Strongly recommend download that manual.
So I say please connect Vector to USB to continue. It's basically as simple as that. So plug that in there. And you want to make sure your GPS is attached to the Vector so it updates anything in there too.
There's a processor in there as well?
Yep.
Okay.
So make sure they're both on the same level.
Configuration? Yep. Okay, there.
That runs all that up.
Wow, you got quite a screen there.
And you see even doing cool stuff already.
Yeah, that's amazing.
But we're just going to go configure it with the RC. We're not going to use the computer.
Okay.
Because you can do a lot more stuff in here along with the waypoints and all that, but that's probably subject for another video.
Okay, so this gives you the ability to program your multi-rotor through the computer or program it through the goggles.
Exactly.
Okay.
So once you plug it in and this menu comes up, it may even prompt you ahead of time saying you need to update your firmware. But I found the firmware button right here. I think I've already updated it, so we'll just show you how to do it in case. Firmware update. So we're updated to the latest firmware. So 1.56 is 1.56. So we don't need to run that, but you guys will most likely need to run it. All right. So now that once we've confirmed that we got the latest firmware, we're going to close this out. You guys could actually continue with that if you wanted to with that setup, but that's something from another video.
Yeah.
So first we're going to go and plug all the wires into the Vector. You're going to have this cable right here. This is basically your RC signal cable that goes into the RXN spot right on the thing.
Can only go in one way, right?
Like everything's keyed too. This is your GPS antenna. This goes into the bus spot. The nice thing is too, they also sell a pitot indicator for your airspeed, so you can get true airspeed rather than ground speed relative to the GPS. But it's not super necessary for flight, so we'll go ahead and avoid that for now. So now I'm just going to go ahead and assemble the clip for this. It's self-explanatory. You just put the screw in, you tighten that, and you're done. That just clips into the base like so. Now you have your main spaghetti noodly mess of wires right here. The nice thing about this cable, the way they set it up, is that you have 12 volts, 12 volts, and 5 volts. So you can control how much voltage you put into the video TX cable and the microphone cable. This basically just negates soldering and stuff. It's a little bit more explained in the manual, which you may want to touch up on this part too. because it can get a little confusing even with the explanations.
So if you have a 5-volt camera, you can actually power it off of the system, because a lot of times people will power a 12-volt, say, immersion RC camera, and then they have a 5-volt camera because they didn't match up immersion with immersion.
Exactly, yeah.
And you don't want that. You plug 12 volts in, you're gone. So
yeah, they touch up on this a lot in the manual, so you guys will definitely want to check that out.
Yeah, follow this along with your manual as you're going along.
So basically, you plug the cable into there. It only goes in one spot. And then we have the TX audio and microphone cable. And you want to make sure you get this in the right spot, because this can go in over here in the audio section where it belongs, and the UART section, which is for future expansions, but we definitely don't want to plug that into there. This guy goes into the current sensor PSU.
Now you can order this has an XT60 on it, which is our personal favorite. Hobby King designed these a long time ago, and we love them. They really hold up well.
Yeah. So first we're going to determine what kind of camera we have. So we'll be using the GoPro today, so we're not going to worry about what voltage we're going to put back into it. So it's kind of independent on this.
It's self-powered, isn't it?
So you have your camera, microphone, and you got the 12 volts, the 5 volts, and the 12 volts. But since we're not going to power the camera with that, we're just going to not even worry about plugging it in.
Okay, what would you do if you had a board camera and say it was a 12-volt camera? How would you hook that up?
We take one of the 12-volt red wires and plug it into the camera mic.
So the white one is 5-volt?
Yep, the white one is 5 volts. You only get one of these, and this is a maximum output of 1.5 amps along with the red ones, 1.5 amp. Your camera would go in here. This is the video, your 12 volts, and your ground.
And if you plug this in, then it'd be your video 5 volts.
It would be video, 5 volts, and ground.
Great.
So
that's
now you have your
nice
option.
You have selectable voltage.
And without even soldering, too. So they thought of everything when they did this.
Very nice.
And your second one you have here is your video TX. Our TX is an immersion 600 milliwatt unit. And these go up to, I think, a 4S, don't they?
Actually, I think they go all the way up to 6S.
6S, wow.
Yeah, it goes from 2 to 6.
Nice.
Yeah.
But since we're just going to take the highest one, so we'll just go to 12. So that's pretty much done there. Now I guess we're going to start going and setting up our camera. So we have GoPro and we have the USB audio video out cable. Basically it has, let's see, ground, video, and audio.
And you can see that they actually removed the power pin there. So even if this was hooked up, it would not get power. I'd strongly recommend, though, just unplug it. If you don't need power going to your camera, you don't want to have that plugged in, right?
Yeah, you don't even need it. We'll just leave it there just to keep these messes not there, I guess. We're not going to do anything with the red wire, so it's not a big concern. So now you can see how the yellow goes to the yellow, which is the video, and the ground goes to ground. So it's self-explanatory, that goes in there. Now we have our audio to deal with. So we have TX audio, which goes out to the transmitter, and we have the microphone input. So we'll put the microphone from the GoPro into the white one.
Usually your white or your orange is going to be your signal wire. So that's going to be whatever's communicating. Your center red wire will always be your power, and then the brown or black will always be your ground.
Yep.
Before you go any farther, if you look here, you got video, ground, and 5 volts out. Now this is actually opposite, because normally it's video, power, and then ground. This is different. So we got to actually switch up our male-to-male
so you
connector.
can't follow this. You got to pay attention to which plugs you put it in.
Okay, and that's a very simple way to do that, right?
So we're not going to use the 5 volts out, because this is also a voltage regulator. So we're going to go ignore that pin. We won't plug anything in there. We're going to figure out what we're going to do first. So I want ground, which is the brown wire, and then I have video going to the red wire, which is incorrect. I don't want that. So I'm going to swap them around. Pull that out. And I want this ugly orange/yellow wire to be the video. So I plug it in there. And now that will go into the video and to the ground. So they correspond. And now we have the 12 volts coming from the power supply unit from the vector. I'm going to heat shrink this first before we go any further. So now we're going to take the 12 volts, plug it into the battery spot on this. That'll be there. Nice, it's nicely insulated, so in case it does bump the ground, there's no short.
Very important.
Now we have the video TX, which is the video, power, and ground. So now you'll see we'll line up video, power, and ground and plug it right in.
It's very simple.
Done. Pretty much.
Now, if you have to do an extension here, oftentimes people like to spread it with everything out, like on an airplane. You just extend this out a little bit, right?
Yep, just extending it out. You can move it wherever you want.
Wonderful.
So now we're going to go in and do the microphone, because this is the only thing left to plug into the immersion transmitter.
That's going to go to either audio left or audio right, correct?
Yep, audio left or audio right. So since we have the servo body here, we're just going to go into audio left. So to make that connection, we don't have any wires. So what I found was a male-to-male Futaba wire, because I just want the white wire. So we're going to do the whole thing with pulling it off. there. And we'll pop that up there. So now you're left with this. So now I'm going to go and plug this again. Slide that into the housing like so. Here, click. And we'll plug it back in. So make sure you double check everything too while doing this, just to make sure you don't have any mistakes. It's always easier to double check rather than buying a whole new unit. Alright, so now we have the microphone wire. That'll go to the TX audio. Alright, that's that.
Very nice. If you're a little worried about that, you could just secure it with tape, couldn't you?
Yep, secure tape or even heat shrink the whole thing. So now we got pretty much the inputs all taken care of with the FPV gear and the outputs. So now we'll take our receiver and go and get that set up.
Do they label this at all?
Yep, they labeled all of them actually.
Really?
Yep.
Oh my gosh,
Aileron,
there it is.
elevator, auxiliary.
Now you guys can
throttle.
see that there's only one wire for this. If you haven't hooked up a control board before, you don't need power and ground for every single
You just
line.
just one. Yeah.
You just need one.
And even this thing has a neat feature where it can do the serials rather than doing the each.
Oh, the S-Bus?
Yeah, the S-Bus. It
Nice.
can do that too. We're not going to go into that though, just to keep it simple.
Yeah, every manufacturer is different with that one.
So let's do this because this is the easiest way. Now we have the elevator. That'll go there. Actually,
And if you guys are unsure what's the ground and what's the signal, on most receivers, they're going to have marked, it looks like a horseshoe.
Yeah, it's like a little.
Yep. The
Like a
negative is going
horseshoe-looking
to be your
thing.
ground, the plus is going to be your positive, and the horseshoe is going to be your signal.
Exactly. Cool. And that's pretty much it.
Great. So minimum
much simpler than that.
6-channel receiver?
Minimum 6-channel. Actually, a 5-channel receiver too. You don't even have to use the auxiliary channel. You just need the mode channel.
Okay.
So basically, a 5-channel you can get away with. Even though you'll definitely be hurting yourself if you do that because you won't have access to all the features the Vector has.
Okay. Well, 6 channels are pretty common nowadays. So just as a review, we got the video transmitter. We have that going to our mic because it's the audio channel. We have the ground and the video signal going to our video channel. And we have this all powered from our
the RPSU.
Yep. Is that what it's called, RPSU?
Yeah, it's a power supply unit. So current sensor and power supply unit.
Very cool. And this is selectable between 5 and 12 volts. So you
5
get
and
two
12
12 volts, one 5 volt.
And the way we have it set up right now, we're just not even going to use this. We're not going to use the PSU from here because we're just going to leave this open and plug it into our electro hub because we got 12 volts there too.
Very nice.
Yep.
And going over to the GPS magnetometer here, we have that connected. And then also we have
Our GoPro.
our GoPro and our receiver.
And now you start to look like you have a mess of wires.
Very good.
Right now I'm going to power it up just to verify everything and go ahead and select the multi-rotor.
Okay.
So before we begin, I forgot, there's one last thing. We have to power our receiver somehow so we can set up the multi-rotor. And what I've done with the multi-rotor is I've disconnected all the BECs because we don't need them, and we're going to use the 5-volt power supply to run our receiver. So I've gone and found one of these guys, which is basically your standard.
That's the one that you actually took the white wire off of.
Actually,
isn't
it's a different one.
Is it?
Yeah, you need so many of these things it gets confusing. This is just your standard, run-of-the-mill extension.
Okay.
So we're going to take that and plug it in here. Not super designed to go in, but you can get them in there anyways. And if you want, you can actually make a JST one. But for time's sake, we'll just go and keep it simple.
The pin spacing is virtually the exact same.
Yep.
Couldn't you just use the connector and just slide it in?
The only problem with that is I ran out of space on my receiver.
What about the battery?
That's the bind slot.
Okay.
I've seen weird things happen when I try to do it there.
Okay.
It might be fixed now, but just for simplicity, I'm just going to plug it into the aux channel. So now that we got the aux out, we're going to put our ground in, and then we're going to put the power wire in.
Now the reason why we're taking this extra step to do this is we're trying to avoid soldering, right?
Yep.
We're trying to keep this as simple.
Yeah, as simple as possible. And even that still gets messy. So that's taken care of. So we have the 5 volts running to here, so we can power this guy up. I think you can even do through the Vector too, so I could take that and
This
stick
is
it in the
good if you
slot.
had like Optos or something that doesn't have a BEC internal.
Yep, the Opto ESCs, you'll definitely need to do this step.
Great. And a lot of Simon K ESCs don't have BECs built into
But
it.
it's not necessary for multi-rotor, so they just reduce weight by taking out the BECs.
Very good.
All right, so now we're going to power it up.
Wow, I noticed one thing. It's 2-color.
Actually, it's multiple colors.
Is it multiple colors?
There's some red in there, there's some green.
I see some orange.
Yep, and some white. So now that we've verified everything, we're going to go ahead and start toggling our flight modes. I have it on the gear switch, which is basically that should be the mode switch. So to toggle the menu, you need to flip this thing back and forth real fast. Now we see we'll bring up the menu. So there's a new airframe checklist, a pre-flight checklist, reset home position, setup, milliamp hours, OSD, radio control settings, safety/return to home configurations, stabilizer settings, eagle eyes, ground station. We're not concerned about that right now. Data logging setup, GPS configuration, calibration and sensor setup, English metric unit setup, audio variometer setup, not applicable, and yeah, it's got tons of features.
A lot. And the way you're toggling through them is by using the control stick.
Yeah, that's a nice thing too. You actually teach it what your sticks do. So by moving sticks back and forward, you'll do that. But we'll figure that out by going to the new airframe checklist.
Okay.
So we'll do that. We first will want to put an airframe type in. It's not set. And this reason why we're doing this right now without plugging the multirotors in or even an airplane is if you have the wrong mode set up, you could potentially destroy your servos or make your multirotor fly off the table by trying to boot it up in an airplane mode.
It's very important. When we pick this up and we put this on the multirotor, we're going to remove all of our props. Make sure you don't neglect this step. So now, all right, so you change your airframe setup or type.
And it says toggle mode switch to confirm. We'll do that.
Airframe not set.
Yep, so now we'll do that. It's basically as simple as just pressing sticks.
And I love how it gives you your prop direction right on the screen. So you could ideally hook this up to your TV and just walk through the whole process.
They even tell you to do that. You don't even need to set up the FPV gear. You could just plug the output just to your goggles and do it.
Nice.
But we're just going to go ahead and set up the gear because we'll have to do it anyways. All right, so now once you pick the airframe, we're going to press the back button, which is basically, I'm going to push the stick to the left. It takes us back out to the menu, you can see there. Now we're going to run the receiver.
Oh, I see, yeah, it's labeled Quad X.
Yep, Quad X, which is basically what that guy is.
Okay.
So now we're going to go ahead and run the receiver analysis wizard. This will basically tell the vector what our RC outputs do on the radio and how it wants to function.
This is the equivalent of moving your sticks all around, giving it its pulse width and everything.
All that.
So is it safe to say before you start you should have your model reset, right? You shouldn't
model reset, trims are centered and all that.
Trim centered, 100, 100, everything, right?
Perfect.
Very good.
So now we'll do that. It'll say disconnect motor / and then toggle mode. We're not plugged up in anything, so we'll go and take care of all that. It tells me it turns the transmitter off, so we'll do that.
Really?
Yep.
So that working with your failsafe?
It'll know how the failsafe behaves now.
Holy cow. That's a very complicated feature in a lot of other setups.
So now it tells you to turn it back on. Now once we're back on, you can see the lights back on our receiver. We'll toggle the mode. Now it says hold air on stick to the left. We'll toggle the mode again. Hold elevator back. Toggle it again. Hold rudder stick to the left. And we'll toggle it again.
You have to do it,
do it faster. There you go. Now control stick centered. I think the throttle doesn't really matter for this when we set this up. I'll just have it centered anyways. Set throttle at max. Set throttle off. Wizard done, and we just toggle to reboot.
So you've just told it where your aileron functions is, what's left, what's right. No reversing, no wiggling everything around. It's just done completely through left input. Now it knows obviously what the right is and so forth.
Yep.
It's really, really efficient.
And we'll click mode to accept type. You can see how it boots up. It'll tell you exactly what's going on and all that. So now, since that's all taken care of, we're going to start sticking on the multi-rotor.
Okay.
Before we go any further, we're going to go and take the propellers off our multi-rotor because, you know, we don't want to cut ourselves in case anything bad happens.
And don't neglect the spot. It's really, really important they do this. A lot of crazy things can happen when you're putting this. One wrong signal, you got 4 motors winding up. It's going to hurt you.
Yep.
So always take this off. We never neglect this step, and neither should you. Now, if you guys are wondering, there's a lot of key things with multi-rotors setting them up properly. One thing is you want very little vibration. We got lots of videos that we can link below down how to remove vibration from your multi-rotors. Don't ever neglect this step. The less vibration you have, the better your video quality is going to be, and the better your board is going to work.
So now once that's taken care of, we're going to go and figure out which one of our inputs go where. So this one, according to the vector, motor number 2. So now we have motor number 2 with the BEC disconnected. We're going to go and plug it right in. And make sure you pay attention to where the signal wires go, because you can see the negative, positive, and signal. You can see the key on the slot on the diagram, and you can see it there too. So our next one is over here, which is this guy. And according to the diagram, that is motor number 3.
And then the top right is number 1.
All right.
And the bottom right is number 4.
Number 4. It's about as simple as that goes.
All right, so technically all of your connections are made that you need to fly this, aren't they?
All of them are done, yep.
Now comes the fun part of routing the wires.
And making a mess of this. So we got some double-sided foam tape. This is from 3M. We're gonna go use it to attach the vector.
I use hot glue. Is that bad?
I do too.
A little messy?
Little vibrations too. This will take away some of that.
Sometimes you can actually double and triple this up and get a little bit more padded. You get it too thick, it's going to be rocky.
Yep. And you definitely don't want this thing moving around during flight. Otherwise, that's a guaranteed crash.
Yeah, oftentimes what I'll do is I'll cut it in 4 corners and have it pedestaled on 4 quarters.
That's a good idea.
And that way it isolates through those smaller areas.
Now you want to go and look at the arrow, because you don't want to mount that way, you don't want to mount that way, you don't want to mount this way, that way, or any other way. It needs to be going forward. And they say to place this as close to the CG as possible, mainly because of the accelerometers. So we'll put that right there.
Now on spider quads, it's a little bit funny. The CG is actually back a little bit, but it's not too far, so you can actually kind of cheat a little bit.
And even if your CG is off by just an inch or two, it's not super critical. So now we're going to deal with our current sensor / PSU. We have our electro hub power wires that go to the ESC. That'll go there. Now we're going to probably glue this somewhere.
Okay.
They say to glue best in airflow, but since we're not pulling too much current, I'm not super concerned, but we'll still try to keep it somewhere where it can dissipate some heat.
We want it to easily be able to reach the battery too.
Yeah. I'll probably just glue it right there. What would you think?
I think that's great.
Cool. But the main thing about this is it's in open air, so it's not like insulated within some really tight confines.
You'd want to be worried if you're say flying a aircraft, right, where it's inside the fuselage.
Yeah, and you're pulling lots of amps too.
Yeah.
Then you definitely want to have some airflow over this. Otherwise, you're just asking for it.
So we're going to need to mount the video transmitter, and it's always important to try to get that up and away as much as possible, just like the GPS. So what I took is one of these simple Delaware landing gears.
That's a great way to use them too.
Very durable. All we need to do is simply zip tie this right here.
Cool. And then the last thing we have to do is install the GPS / magnetometer. And we'll stick that about there, would you say?
I think that looks pretty good. So you're, because we don't want to drill into our electro hub.
Yeah, even though we could, but just to keep it simple, we're just going to use some of this double-sided tape.
I like that too, because the less screws you use, the more things can break away when and if you crash.
Yeah, and you can remove them too, which is nice. So stick that
this is a pretty crude way to wire everything. You can take your time and dress this up beautifully.
If I were you guys, after spending all this money, I would definitely take my time. But for simplicity's sake, you can see how it works.
Our main goal is to show you the hookup, show you the programming,
and show you the flight.
Yes.
Because this will most likely come apart right after this. Because we'll put in something else.
We're putting on a plane, I think.
A plane or anything, actually. Maybe even the top tilt.
So we're gonna need to get this video receiver.
Oh wait, we forgot one last thing. Yeah, the receiver. We gotta stick this guy somewhere too.
Always keep in mind, whenever you have loose wires, make sure they can't reach the props. One thing I like to do is when you take down the receiver, I like to route it out, and you don't want the receiver, the tip of the antenna, pointing at where you're going to be flying the most. But what you should have, because your weak spot's going to be in the middle, it's like a donut going around here.
Yeah, it's linearly polarized.
Linear. So if you're hovering above yourself and it's pointing like this, you're in trouble.
Oh yeah, you're in trouble.
But if you're flying away from yourself, as most people do with FPV, it's going to be just fine. That's what we do. We don't just hover above ourselves, because you shouldn't do that.
Yeah, and the nice thing, the way they tell you to put these things 90 degrees out of phase from each other.
Now, one reason we're putting this together here is just as we tested off the bench, it's important to go ahead and test everything before you address it, because if you have to make changes, now would be the best time to do it. Once you know that everything's working, you can go back and dress it beautifully. They have really great things like those beautiful noodle straps.
Oh yeah, like the loomed wires that kind of like the Chinese finger cuffs.
Yeah, you can go ahead and dress all your wires, make it clean, but make sure everything works and everything is the way you want it before fastening it down, because you're going to tear that all apart if you make a mistake.
So now we're going to go ahead and power it up, and we'll turn it on. You can see the menu come up, Quad X is selected. You can see the firmware version 2 at the bottom. And now we'll just start flipping through things it wants to tell you. So we're going to toggle the mode.
I like how it tells it's a 3S pack.
Oh yeah, it's got auto detect and everything.
Beautiful.
You can even set it to a specific pack if you wanted to, like a 3S or a 4S.
So you can tell it's the capacity, so that way it's counting down, right?
Yep, you can do that too.
Nice.
So once we're back into the new airframe checklist, we're going to go to the setup auxiliary inputs and outputs, and we're going to toggle that over to the right. I'm going to set the auxiliary input function to sub mode. We'll just go up. You can do gain, motor kill. So I want sub mode, so I'll hit back. And now I'm going to go and set up to mode / sub mode switches, because basically you have your main mode, which is either 2D, which is with no hold right now, is what I got set to, and then I flip it back over, it'll go to the sub modes. So that means now this switch will control which function we'll do, like return to home, loiter, and all that.
And that's a way to basically give you more functionality on a very simple radio, right?
Yep. It can even do more functions too if you got more switches.
Nice.
So now you can see how I have it here. Since I only have a 2-position switch, mode switch, it has 3 slots. I can't do anything with the middle slots because it's either up or down. So I'll put it in 2D and hold. So that means 2 dimensions, or it basically means it's the accelerometers will keep it level flight.
Okay. So basically, 2-dimensional mode is where the plane is auto-leveling. Whether it's an aircraft or whether it's a multi-rotor, it automatically brings it back to level when you're not holding an input into the sticks.
Exactly. Cool.
Okay. So you're going to go into another mode now, right? And that's the 2D sub mode.
Yep. 2D sub mode basically means it'll basically do what you just said.
Okay.
But now it has the functions of doing the other positions in here.
Okay.
So I basically set that switch the way you saw it in the menu with the 3 spots.
Okay.
for either loiter or neutral, which is not doing anything, and then return to home.
Okay.
Yep. So basically, that's how I get to return to home.
So you could have actually 3 functions now with that.
Exactly.
Okay. And also, if you go through the manual, I strongly recommend don't just use this. Use this as a concept to figure out how to navigate it, but go through the manual. There's lots of advanced setups for aircraft and all different platforms.
It's much too much to try to explain in one video, because my head is starting to hurt, and I'm pretty sure your head would hurt too.
It's a very robust system. Get through this process, and then you can learn and start adding on to that knowledge. Okay, so we're all set up here?
Yep, all set up. We're going to go back to our menu one more time. There's a couple other things we need to do too before we go out to the field.
What are those?
We need to calibrate compass.
It's very important.
Yep, so now you toggle mode to confirm. Alright, hold the model horizontal.
Alright, it's horizontal.
Now spin round and round. A little slower, slow down. Alright, cool. Now tilt the model's nose up. Now spin round and round. A little more.
You're just going to make me fall down.
A little more. Alright, you're good.
Alright.
Compass is calibrated. You can put it back on the table.
That easily?
That easily.
Good, because I can't make it another time around.
I'm just glad it's not a big airplane or something.
Yeah. Alright, so we got the compass calibrated.
Yep.
Very important too.
Now we're going to record flat and level surfaces, so don't touch the table.
Hold on.
Alright, now we're going to go do and verify multi-rotor settings. So we can see some of our options here. We have low battery auto land, missile voltage, motor tester. We want motor tester because we want to make sure our functions are in the right spot.
Okay.
We already checked that too, so I'm not too concerned. So basically, I'm going to start motor 1. That's motor 1, right?
Yep.
See that?
That's incredible. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Now we'll do motor 2, which should be this guy.
And you can also check for rotation too.
Yep.
This is incredible. I've never seen something like this.
So that's 3.
3.
And that's 4. We're going to do idle throttle, and this basically sets the low end throttle, because the way the vector works is it arms, but it doesn't arm with the motors off. It arms with the motor spinning at a little idle speed.
Okay.
So we're going to set our idle speed. It's set at 1150 right now, and I think it's good enough for now.
You got a lot of parameters. Yeah. Definitely go through the manual as you want more and more functionality. You have so much control over where you put things, even the colors of some things, right?
But today we're just going to worry about just popping you up in the air and just flying around a little bit so you can start enjoying it.
Okay, great. So in that case, what's the next step?
You can set the altitude which you want to fly home, which is super cool.
That's very, very important. Say you're flying out there and you know if it comes directly home, you're going to be hitting trees and different things. It doesn't mean it won't be in line of sight, but say you're going around a corner, there could be a tree. You can set that where you know it'll definitely be above the trees. So in this case, you could do 60, 70 feet, right?
What do you think is a good altitude?
Let's go ahead and do 80.
80 feet. 80 feet it is.
Okay, just holding up there.
Yep.
Nice. Okay.
Yep. There you go. A little too high. 85, 84 is good enough.
There you go.
All right, and y'all multi-rotor home. That means basically when I flip the home, it's going to look towards me and fly home.
Oh, wow. That's really nice.
Yeah. It's set to no right now, but I want it to turn towards me, so I'll let it do that.
I really like the APM had a return to home that was very, very useful for me, but it was so funny because it'd go up and it would literally just kind of come back, and it looks so funny when it would come back that way.
All right, so automatically when we come home, I think we should test that. What about you?
I like it.
We'll turn that on. All right, and the nice thing is you can also set parameters too. Like you can set like a big circle around you through the menu because it has maximum altitude and maximum distance, so you can set how high it wants to go. Like if an airport, so you want to know truly 400 feet, you can set it to 400 feet.
Nice.
Or even perimeter around you, so you can do that as well.
I always want to put people first.
Yep. Well, we're not going to worry about that too much because we're just going to go only a few feet out there, fly around, come back.
Very good.
So basically, like once you boot this thing up too, you're still going to want to toggle through the menus and look at all your settings because there's actually a lot of things in here you just don't want to miss. You could probably fly around with it, but it's still safe to say to go and reset your gyros, center your compass, and do all that stuff.
It's the difference between a flying machine and a well-tuned flying machine. Oftentimes, neglected these features, oftentimes brought by firmware updates. If you neglect them, all the reason they're putting that on there is to give you a better flight experience. So don't neglect going through the menu, and if you need to be, go through the manual again.
And the nice thing too, to exit the menu, you can just bump the rudder stick. You'll get out of there immediately.
Oh, very nice. So you just bump the rudder stick all the way down to the left.
You can even activate in flight, but that's also stuff you can figure out on the menu too.
Very good, very good. So at this point, we're ready to power down and put our props on, correct?
I'm going to start the multi-rotor just to do it. Now here's the fun part. When I got the Vector, I was not aware of how they did their start procedure because you hold it down to the right, just like multi-Wii or KK2, and then you're armed. But the way this thing works is it pulses the motors, and I thought that was it. It was armed. But the problem is I never got throttles to work. But you actually hold it down, it'll do that. One more time. Now start.
Gotcha.
That's confusing. But
so it's saying, hey, I'm gonna start. Hey, I'm gonna start. Okay, I'm going to start.
I'm just not used to that too, because I played with it for about 30 minutes trying to figure that out. But the nice thing about that is we contacted EagleTree about that, and other people have had this issue. So they actually updated their menu telling you exactly how the start procedure was. So that's customer support right there.
Very good. Yeah, and they're quick about it too.
All right, cool. So let's put the props on.
Okay.
Power it down.
All right, so everything's been programmed, hooked up. We validated it and made sure it was working before we put on the multi-rotor. After we put on the multi-rotor, then we put on the props. Now we're outside, ready to take off.
Yep.
Now there's a couple of things. We powered it on in there. Now if we hit return to home,
we're gonna go flying through that shop window.
We're gonna be flying through the shop window.
Actually, we'll be descending on the roof.
Yeah, there's a solution for that, isn't there?
Yep.
You always want to keep that in mind. If you're gonna go ahead and fly and use that return to home function, you gotta address it now.
Yep.
How do we do that?
We'll toggle the mode switch again.
Okay.
Go back into our menu.
I see that.
Go to reset home position and hit the right stick. Home position reset.
Nice.
Simple as that.
I also see just below that, so you can set your milliamp pack hour. So if we had a 3000, we can set that to 3000. That way it's go ahead and adjusting the battery properly.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to worry about that right now because we're just going to take it up for a quick flight and bring it down and land it.
Very good.
So this is all stuff you guys can work through, and I highly recommend going through it yourself because you guys will have certain features and turn-ons and turn-offs you want and don't want.
The first step to do is to make sure it actually flies, and that's what we're going to do now. Maybe we'll even check out some modes.
All right, so you ready to fly?
Yeah. And there you go.
So now we're up in the air.
Holy cow. That's no gain adjust.
No gain adjust. This is the first time it's ever been in the air. Look at that, how smooth it's going.
That's amazingly smooth. Now we programmed this as a quad. This is technically a spider quad, which means it's not equally balanced on the front and the back.
I love how smooth this thing is.
It's incredibly smooth. I swear you're flying acro right now.
Yep.
Now you're quite a ways away. Actually, I can tell you how far away you are. I love also with the EagleTree and stuff, the data, it's a lot similar to immersion. It has a, let's see, you're in 2D with hold.
2D with hold. So now if I let go of the stick, it'll try to level itself out.
So you're flying acro earlier?
I'm not an acro. Acro is 3D.
Okay.
We're not going to worry about that too much.
Okay.
So now I'm going to go flip it into the 2D plus sub mode switch.
Okay.
So now the mode switch is in the unused position. So now we're going to go and come back home. Should we try it out?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
There
Should be coming home.
Now the first thing it's going to do is going to establish the altitude that it wants to see, right?
Yep, you can see it on the graph right there. It's going up to 80 feet, 81, 82.
Oh my gosh, it's so accurate.
You can even set the speed it comes home too. It's set up pretty slow out of the box.
Yeah, which makes sense.
So now we're going to watch it come and land.
And it's on its way back.
All right.
So right now it's over its landing spot, isn't it? And at this point, it's going to start coming down.
It's landing. You can even set the descent rate too.
Look how nice it's going down. Now the funny thing about when these things usually land, they're kind of finding the ground, aren't they? They're waiting until they don't see an altitude change.
Yep.
Look at that. That's incredible.
All right, let's go back inside.
All right.
We're done here.
Well, on that note, I think you've successfully hooked up this board, man.
I think so.
Good job. Hey, good job, Peter. This is truly amazing. What you guys have created here with OSD and also the control board together is
it's nothing short of amazing, especially because it's so refined and polished.
Yeah. And in the future, we're going to be testing out more functionality. Let us know what you want to see us test and what you want to see it in. Maybe we can make that happen. All right, you want to put it back through it then?
I want to go inside. It's really, really cold.
It is cold here. I'll get the plane. You go inside. You've done enough work. See you next time.